This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone, Shalom Aleichem. I want to share with you an idea that occurred to me last night about the unusual pairing of Chukas and Balak. Usually, when Parshas are joined, there's a common theme between the two Parshas. So you have Vayaka Pekude, talks about the construction of the Mishkan, Tazria Mitzayra, Tsaras. But Chukas and Balak seems to be an unusual pair. The storyline is not in any way connected. The narrative is a different story completely. Chukas is about the Paraduma. Balak is about the episode of Bilam cursing Klal Yisrael. Yesterday I saw in a Sefer Nachlas Yosef that a connection is that Chukas ends Parak Chaf Aleph Pasuk Lamed Aleph Vayeshev Yisrael B'Aretz Ha'amoiri, and Balak begins that Vayar Balak ben Sipar Eitz Kasha Asa Yisrael Lo Amoiri. I would add the last pasuk in Chukas is Vayachanu Ba'arvois Moav, and Balak talks about what happened Ba'arvois Moav. Also, I would humbly suggest that in Balak, one of the things that Balak says is Mi mana afar Yaakov, who could count the dust of Yaakov, which Rashi says refers to who could count the number of mitzvahs we do with afar. For example, Efer Para, the ashes of the Paraduma. So that's another connection between Chukas and Balak. But last night it occurred to me a really nice explanation of connecting the two Parshas. The Arizal reveals that the soul of Ba'ar, the father of Bilam, was in the Egal. In fact, who made the Egal? The Arizal reveals that Yunus and Yumbarus, the two sons of Bilam, were the ones who made the Egal. In Parshas Balak it says he took a Shnei Na'arav Imai, who were Shnei Na'arav, Yunus and Yumbarus, his two sons. They somehow infiltrated the Jewish camp, and they were the ones responsible for the Egal. This would explain why it says Vayar Bilam. Bilam saw that he wasn't being successful in cursing the Bnei Yisrael. So the pasuk says Vayashes El Hamidbar Panav. He sets his sight on the desert. So the Targum explains, what does it mean that he sets his sight on the desert? Vachaza Yas Agla. He focuses in on the Chet HaEgal. He understands that the sort of the soft underbelly, the point of vulnerability of the Jewish people, is the Egal. And since that's the Egal, he figures by honing in on the Chet HaEgal, he'll be able to attack Klal Yisrael successfully. But moreover, we understand that he had a particular nachas from the Egal. After all, his father's soul was in the Egal, and his sons were the one who built the Egal. So we see that a lot of Parshas Balak is centered around Bilam taking advantage of the Chet HaEgal. That was the whole point of curse of Klal. In other words, how would he be able to curse the Jewish people? Only by honing in on the Chet HaEgal. Now, in that case, we understand the beauty. By the way, that's why the Malach, the Astounding, says to Bilam, Ma lama asisi lacha ki hi kisani zeh shalosh regalim. What did I do to you that you're hitting me these 3 regalim? Rashi says, he didn't say shalosh pa'amim 3 times, he says regalim. He's being merames, that you cannot be oiker, a nation that serves, that observes the 3 regalim. The Mefarshim explain that the regalim are 360 hours. The shalosh regalim are a total of 360 hours. And the Chet HaEgal was 6 hours. Vayar ha'am ki boi sheish Moshe. And the shalosh regalim are mevatel the Chet HaEgal b'shishim. And that's a subject that we once spoke about. But we see that a lot of the theme of Parshas Balak then is centered around the Chet HaEgal. Again, the soul of Bilam's father is in the Egal. Bilam's sons made the Egal. And the whole curse of Bilam is therefore to focus in on the Chet HaEgal. That being the case, we understand an amazing connection between Chukas and Balak. Rashi tells us in the beginning of Chukas, what's the reason for the Parah Aduma? Rashi quotes from Rabbi Moshe Hadarshan of Provence that the Parah Aduma is a tikkun for the Chet HaEgal. Rashi explains at length how each detail of the Egal was atoned for with the Parah Aduma. Namely, Rashi tells us that the three species, the Eitz Erez, the Ezav, the Shnei Toilas, are mechaper of the 3,000 Jews that fell in the Egal. The Erez was haughty, the Ezav is low, to indicate we need to be humble. Elazar HaKohen had to be involved with the Parah Aduma, just like the Jewish people gathered to Aaron the Kohen, but Aaron himself didn't do the Parah Aduma, She'en Kategar Nasa Sanegar. The reason for the Parah is that if a kid makes a mess, you call on the mother. So the Egel was the child, you call on the mother, Par. It's red because sin is red, it's Tamima. Klal Yisrael before the Egel were Tamim. And the ashes were of the Parah Aduma preserved Limashmeres, just like the punishment of the Egel is preserved. The Parah Aduma is a tikkun for the Chet HaEgal, so we could say, since the entire vantage point of Bilam to be able to curse Klal Yisrael was to hone in on the Chet HaEgal, therefore, as a tikkun for that, Hashem gave the remedy before. Hashem always prepares the refuah before the makkah. Namely, so Hashem gives us Parah Aduma before Bilam even comes to the scene. So Chukas is the introductory remedy for Parshas Balak, and that explains the combination of these two Parshas. Chukas, the Parah Aduma, is the tikkun and the protection from the curses of Parshas Balak. So that's just a thought about the combination of these two Parshias. If I may, I'll expand on this further on Friday. But we know that the Chet HaEgal happened on Shavasa B'Tammuz. In that case, there's no coincidence that Parshas Balak is always read the week before Shavasa B'Tammuz, indicating that Shavasa B'Tammuz is sort of the shoresh and the root of the potential curses of Bilam Harasha. Okay, so that's one thought on Parshas Balak.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.